Right. Hello, hello. Well, thank you for joining the class today. We're going to be doing some GCSE work today in this group class, or more specifically, the difference between health and fitness, and then we're going to be looking at the components of fitness as well. So the 10, 11, 12, if you look at the different varieties of strength, I'm going to look at the different components of fitness, what actually makes or what actually contributes to this overall fitness term. So we're going to take a look through different definitions and then into sporting situations and apply both the terms health and fitness to sport and scenarios that you'll need for your exam. Of course, this video and others like it, other resources, this lesson, they will be available through the PE portal, which you can find either visiting the website just there, thepetutor.com, or you can go straight to it, which is GCSEPEportal.com, and join the 100 or so people in there at the moment using the resources, teachers, students, doesn't really matter. It's there for anyone and everyone doing PE, just an all-inclusive solution to teaching and learning PE. Right, so we'll get started, and as you can see from behind me, the journey that we're going to take today in this lesson, we'll look at health first, then we'll go into fitness, and then we'll go into fitness components after that. Probably running for sort of 40 minutes today. We'll try and keep it short, sharp, and snappy and to the point. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So, specific objectives for today. Know the difference between health and fitness. Okay, they're not the same thing. There are differences, and we will know what they are by the end of this. We'll also know, looking at the silver badge there, we're looking at the definitions for these components of fitness as well. And then hopefully by the end, some of us, hopefully most of us, will be able to take a sporting context or scenario and talk about the most relevant components of fitness for that person and to be able to justify your choice. Why should they focus on developing 3 or 4 components of fitness, not the rest of them? Okay, so to be able to justify. Right, to start with, there are about 7 pictures on the screen. Well, there are 7 pictures on the screen for you. Have a little think, but they'll be there for about 10-15 seconds. Have a little think. Which one to you signals or signifies good health or high levels of fitness? Have a little think. We've got someone working in the office. We've got a soldier. We've got some sports performers. We've got a bike messenger. We've got someone enjoying looks like a big tasty or a Big Mac and or Coke. And then bottom left, we've got someone unfortunately laid up in bed, ill. But on the face of all of these, I'm hoping you're thinking that, well, it's quite difficult to say if someone is healthy or not healthy, or if someone is fit or not fit, because just from that one picture, there's so many other factors that we can't see, which goes into making our mind up about whether they're healthy or they're fit. And we're going to come back to these later on, but I just want you to have that thought in your mind that it's not this black and white. It's a very grey area. Defining someone as healthy or fit. There's a lot of things that actually contribute to them being in one of those two states. So we'll start off with health. What is health? Well, you can see from the picture on the left, it's this 4-component model. We've got 4 inputs, 4 things that contribute to someone's overall health, and they are physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being. Physical, mental, social, and emotional. We need to hit each one of these components in order to consider ourselves or someone else to be in good health. It's not just about not being sick. If you're going about your daily life and you're free from aches and pains, you haven't got a sniffy nose or anything, you're not necessarily healthy. You're not sick, but you're not necessarily healthy. You need these 4 other Well, you need these 4 components to contribute to your overall health. So physical, mental, social, and emotional. And we're going to look at those in more detail. Just said that. Yeah, to not be lacking illness is not considered good health on its own. So if we look at emotional first, emotional well-being. Now, we'll look at it detached from sport to start with. Emotional well-being is having positive feelings. Are we enjoying what we're doing? Are we happy in what we're doing? Are we optimistic? Have we got a positive outlook on the way things make us feel? Are we stressed and anxious, or are we laid back and calm? Well, sport or physical activity, that can help release endorphins inside our brain. It's a chemical that's a feel-good hormone. It's pleasurable to have endorphins inside of our brain, and we can start to link movement with this feel-good factor. And especially with sport, where it's so progress and target driven, if we're reaching our goals and making gradual progress, that's going to give us a sense of accomplishment as well. We're going to feel like we're successful. So that positive emotion, very, very important for contributing to good health. Next, we have the social component. So social well-being, again, removed from sport to start with. Social well-being is this sense of belonging, a sense of being able to communicate and interact with those around us. It's not necessarily having a best mate. It's not just about that. It's having the skills and the emotional intelligence to then talk with that person, to deal with problems together, to work out tactics together, to think ahead, to set plans and goals, to work out what their strengths and weaknesses are and use that to everyone's advantage. So that team, that communal interaction leads to social well-being. Well, how can sport impact on that? Well, team environments. If you're playing on a team or you've got an opponent, you need to be respectful and mindful of what they're what they're capable of. You need to interact with them. You need this sense of interdependence rather than independence. And while doing that, you'll become a better talker. You'll become better at working out what makes them happy as well. So social well-being, this ability to work and relate to others well. Mental well-being then. So what's this mental component of overall health? Well, it's to do with decision making. It's to do with cognitive processing. Are we setting appropriate goals? Do we have the grit, the fortitude, the mental stamina to stick at something because we know it's the right thing to do for us? Because we've set the goal, we know that's going to make us feel accomplished. Can I stick with it? Can I follow through on my thoughts? Well, sport can help with this. It can help with clarity. It can help with this, dealing with things in the face of adversity. If you're playing a sport and there's a few minutes left on the clock and it's really tense, can you focus your mind? Can you stick with tactics and trust that you've done all of the thinking beforehand and you just need to put it into action and trust that you can do it well? Well, that's mental well-being. The clarity of your thought and decision making. If we can have that, it's going to contribute to our health. And the last component, physical well-being, again, removed from sport to start with. Is our heart in good health? Are our veins, our arteries, our vessels, our vascular system, our blood, is it in good nick? Muscles, are they strong? Are they healthy? Are they fat-free? Or not fat-free, but have they got an appropriate amount of fat? Our bones, are they strong or are they brittle? Joints, have we got wide range of movement or are they seized up due to osteoarthritis? Do we have to cap our work level or stress level because we get heart or chest pains because our cardiac health isn't good? Well, within sport, obviously regular moderate stress on the body can help it improve. We have muscular hypertrophy going on. We can use fat as an energy to move, and we can reduce our body fat. So suddenly our joints aren't under as much pressure because we don't weigh as much. We haven't got as much fat clogging up coronary blood vessels, supplying the heart with blood. So all in all, we've got emotional, social, mental, physical well-being. We need to be spending time, day to day, week to week, making sure that all 4 of these areas are hit, that we focus on them and improve them. Because if we don't and one lapses, well, that's when we get this unbalanced approach to health. Now, what we're going to move on to now in a moment is fitness and how that sort of primarily covers the physical component. But before we do, I want to show you these the pictures again. So obviously from that start we had 7 or 8 people, and now I want you to be considering these 4 components in relation to what that picture symbolises for them. So the first person, this woman there in the office, giving a thumbs up, obviously enjoying herself or liking what she's doing. So we could potentially assume that she loves her work. Maybe she has friends. Maybe she makes decisions at that job, in that role. She has responsibility. So in terms of her mental well-being and her emotional well-being, she's feeling good and positive about the responsibility that she has and can act on. Okay, 2 big ticks. But she might have to sit at her desk all day. That could be of detriment to her physical well-being because her muscles aren't getting enough stress. She's not going to be in the best shape because she's not expending energy. Socially, this job might entail long work hours, 10, 11, 12-hour days, 60, 70-hour work weeks perhaps. And when she does get home, she's too tired from all the work that she's doing, which she enjoys, but she's too tired to go and spend time with family and friends. So, yes, face value, it might be that she is enjoying herself and she looks healthy, but what about all of the components? Maybe not. Similarly with a soldier, obviously physical fitness is going to be at its peak, essential in these roles. But high pressure, distressing situations perhaps, spending long periods of time away from family and friends back home. Now, some people that might not affect, we don't know, it's just a picture from this person. But are all 4 of their components being hit? Face value, physical fitness, probably. They're there doing that job probably because it makes them feel good to be part of a bigger cause. Teamwork is essential to be part of armed services or military services. But what about emotional well-being? Is the distressing part of the job, is the tense and the stress and the anxiety of the danger side, is that implicating their health? And we've got these last 2 here. That bike messenger, obviously always on the go. So physically, probably going to be in really good shape as well. Same with the tennis players. But with the bike messenger, well, when do they have to work? Probably during peak times when everyone else wants to eat. This is Deliveroo. So if they're always on their bike between the hours of 4 and 11 in the afternoons and evenings, when do they get their downtime to mix with their friends and families? What's their social life like? But do they have much stress? Is there much in the way of anxiety or high pressure or big decisions to make in this role? Do they feel fulfilled in this position? Perhaps, perhaps not. So the point I'm trying to make is that from all of these pictures, from all of the people that we look at or that we know of, we can't make a judgment call on their health because there's 4 components, and a lot of those is out of eyesight. It's what's going inside of their head, inside their heart, or their emotional side of things. It's not just about the physical. So that's health. This all-round, all-encompassing physical, mental, social, emotional state of well-being. Fitness, this is now looking primarily at the physical component. And fitness, from a day-to-day perspective, is the ability to meet the demands of the environment. Now, the type of environment a person can be in is obviously changeable. You might have someone who sits at a desk all day. You might have, from the pictures before, a military person. You might have a sports person. All 3 of those examples, their day-to-days are going to look completely different. So for them to meet the demands that their environment poses, their bodies are going to have to be completely different as well. Their fitness levels are going to have to be completely different. Now, as long as a person's current level of fitness is enough to satisfy the demands of their current environment, we can say that they are fit. But we have to ask ourselves, when judging a range of people, fit for what? We have to know what the environment is and the demands of that environment before we can start to assess their fitness levels. A golfer, incredible fitness for golf. Put them on a basketball court, could be a completely different story. A cyclist, a world record holder. Let's take Usain Bolt, fastest man ever in the world. Well, it is, at least at the time of this recording, I'll be interested to see how long that statement lasts. Fastest man in the world. Okay, can he swim more than 500 metres? Can he complete an Ironman or an ultra-endurance triathlon? Probably not. He's not fit for that. He's fit for sprinting 100 metres and 200 metres, but not for endurance events. So fit for what? What's the environment? What are the demands? What is being asked of the body? What are the requirements? And if we can complete the demands without too much fatigue, without risk of injury, without too much thought, then yes, we can say that person is fit for that environment. So we know that it's the ability to meet the demands of the environment. So we'll ask ourselves again this question. Are any of these individuals in environments where what do they have to do? That's the question I'm trying to ask. What is it that they have to be doing in order to satisfy the demands of their current environment? Well, the person in the bottom left corner, lying in the bed, they're lying in a bed. Do they have to do much beyond that to be considered fit for that environment? No. Now, that obviously doesn't take into account what put them there in the first place, but if you take someone who is chilling, at the moment, we're obviously got a little bit of home learning, distance learning going on, but if someone is laid up on the couch, relaxing, well, they don't need the fitness levels of walking up and down the stairs all the time, of walking to work, cycling to work. So at the moment, they're fit for sitting on the couch. Our bike messenger probably has to cycle 15, 20 kilometers a shift. Do they have the fitness levels to mean that they can do that and then do it the next day and they're not too achy from the day before? Yes or no? Are they fit for that environment? So just like with health, we've got these multiple factors, physical, mental, social, emotional, that determine someone's overall health. Well, the same thing with fitness. It's multifaceted. Lots of different things. Well, a body is capable of doing lots of different things. And the person takes their environment that they're in, they look at the demands that that environment poses, and they select what their body is capable of doing, and then they try and complete the demands in the environment. If they can, they're fit. If they can't, then they're not fit. So if we now take a little step to the side now and say how, well, we know it's to do with the environment, but what is it about the person's lifestyle? Okay, not necessarily where they go or what they have to do each day or what sports they play, but the little things, the day-to-day sort of existential happenings of the day, let's just say. Well, I'll put a couple down here and a couple of the changes which are starting to occur. And what we're starting to see is the overall societal demands on fitness are getting lower and lower. And that's not necessarily, I'll put it here, that's not necessarily a bad thing. This transfer or development or advancement from olden days to modern society, they're not necessarily a bad thing. Because they could be promoting better social well-being, better mental, better emotional well-being. But the physical component, no matter what we say, the physical component of the average person in society is taking a hit. It's beginning to reduce because we're not needed to be as physical in our day-to-day lives. Just with some of these examples here, pop up to the shops, Go into town, walk somewhere, buy something. Okay, go on Amazon, click, deliver. One click payment, I think it's called now. So you're not even clicking your fingers too many times and you've already got something on the way. Brush your teeth. Manually? Well, we've got electric toothbrushes now. That's 2 minutes of exercise, essentially, that's just gone. A lot more children now are not playing in the garden because of the inviting iPads and iPhones and technological games, which, quite frankly, are a lot more entertaining than probably, a pebble in the garden. Not necessarily a bad thing, because when they're doing that, they're developing possibly better cognitive skills. So their mental health and their mental sharpness might be increasing. They're acquiring new skills, IT skills, very important. But the physical side of things could be dropping. So I'll be interested, if you are watching this, on playback, can you fill in any others? What transfers of old physical activity to modern automation, where we don't have to lift a finger anymore? And if, as soon as our environment gets easier and easier to meet physically, well, our fitness levels are going to drop to the point that they meet the demands. So we're still fit to live day to day. But what happens when we do decide to play sport, or our car breaks down and we have to cycle to work, or shops no longer deliver and we have to walk to the shops? Do we still have the levels of fitness to meet those demands? Because it's easy to drop our fitness levels, but it's a lot harder to drop them up. To move them up. So we've looked at health, physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being, and we've looked at what fitness is. Fit for what? Can we meet the environmental demands without undue fatigue? Yes or no? Well, I did mention that a person can pick and choose parts of their fitness, parts of their all-round capabilities, and that's what these components are. And we've got two different categories of components of fitness. We've got the physical components, and I'll describe these as being more raw. So it's always just one piece of data. It doesn't require a combination of many things. It's just what the body's output is. What's it capable of? Such as strength, endurance, flexibility. We're going to look at the definitions of these in a moment. Endurance again, body composition, and when we just weigh up and we look at fat, muscle, bone. We're not saying anything about them, we're just saying how much of each are there. And then speed. Speed equals distance over time, that triangle. Now if I put it on the board behind me. Speed, dt. Put it into a triangle there. So if you want to find out the speed, you cut the speed up, and your math sum is d divided by t, d over t. Speed equals distance over time. If you want to work out what the time is, cut the t up. Time equals the distance covered and the speed that they moved at. And if you want to work out distance, you do speed times time because it's next to it. Skill-related components. Agility, these are now the combination almost of our physical components. So if we were to apply strength and speed, we'd get power, that's the one below, but agility might be something that comes out as well, is ability to change direction without losing our balance. Balance being the next one. Coordination, moving parts of our body at the same time to produce an accurate outcome. Power, applying force and strength quickly, and reaction time. Interpreting stimulus, making a decision on what to do as a response, and then doing the response. So we'll run through each of those for the definitions, and then we're going to link them to a sport. So muscular strength, the maximum force a muscle can generate. This is going to be your time. If you did want to jot things down, this would be a great moment to either pause the video and then do it. But we will cover these again in the slides to come. So strength, the maximum force a muscle can generate. Muscular endurance. If we now drop the intensity that we're working against, but we increase the repetitions. So the difference, muscular strength here would be, if I put 200 kilograms on my back for a squat, could I do one of those? Maybe. Muscular endurance. If I were to drop that weight to 50 kilograms how many of those squats could I then do? So it's 1 repetition, high force, high strength, low repetition. Muscular endurance, low force intensity, but high repetition. Flexibility, range of movement available at a joint. Are our muscles pliable? Are they elastic? Are the joint structures designed in a way that these bones can articulate and achieve lots of movement? Aerobic endurance, we've got this transportation of oxygen and nutrients to the working muscles during activity. Can we keep sufficient supply up? Can we keep matching demand? If so, we can carry on and we don't get fatigue-inducing byproducts. Body composition, that's what we're saying there. Fat bone muscle, or fat mass, fat-free mass. We're just looking at the ratios, the proportions, what makes up that person's mass. And then speed. Speed equals distance over time. And we've got a couple of different types there. Okay, you don't need to know these in too much detail. But accelerative, how long does it take to get from 0 meters per second up to our maximum? How long does that take to accelerate? Pure speed, how fast can we move? What's our peak? What's our PB? Doesn't matter how long it takes to get there, but when we do get there, what is that? What's our peak? What's our maximum? And then endurance. How quickly can we go from maximum speed, recover, maximum speed, recover, again, again, again. Repetitions of speed. Our skill-related components then. Okay, we've already got 5 of these ones. Agility. This is direction with speed. Direction with speed, with balance, with control. Balance, keeping centre of mass over a base of support. Our centre of mass being that central point of our total mass. At the moment, I'm in a star position. I've got mass distributed out to my fingers, to my toes. But if I was to average all of that out and turn it into a circle, what's the middle point of that circle? My centre of mass. And as long as that is hovering above the base of support, which is wherever we're contacting the surface that we're balancing on, as long as it's above that, forward, backwards, side to side, it's above it in general, we keep our balance. Coordination, different body parts or objects, and we move together in this accurate manner. We bring about a very refined movement, or not necessarily a refined movement, but the outcome is there's a high degree of accuracy. There's no margin for error. Baseball player swings and hits a ball that's traveling at 100, 110 kilometers an hour. If they hit that ball well within a millimeter of the ball center of mass and the bat center of mass, if they align perfectly, home run. If they miss it by a centimeter, that ball's going straight in the air, it's going to get caught. So coordination, using things together to produce accurate and smooth movements. Power, strength and speed. How quickly can we apply our maximum force? Or how long can we apply our maximum force for? This relationship with strength and time. And then reaction. Onset of stimulus such as when your marks get set, go, and then the sprinter starting their run, initiating that push out of the blocks to start their event. So we'll now look at each one with a bit of a sporting example of which sports performer would rely quite heavily on this particular component of fitness. So we'll start with strength, and there are 4 different types. We've got maximal strength, that's what I was saying there with the squat bar, and we're trying to do 1 repetition, 1 contraction, range of movement, stretches and comes back. So 1 repetition of the movement. How much can we lift? We don't care about time, don't care about how long it takes. We don't care about anything apart from what force output is there. Static strength. What force can we hold? So what force can we actually control in a way that there's no movement? Someone could probably put a 250 weight on me, and it's not going to fall down to the ground at the speed of gravity. I'm going to be able to resist it a little bit, but it's going to overcome me. So that's not static strength. Static strength would be someone could put a weight on me, I could hold it, I couldn't do a squat, because as soon as I would start to move, my muscles and joints would give way. But I could hold it, that would be static strength. Or this gymnast holding this position, using that muscle tension to create and hold a shape. Dynamic strength, this is rapid repetitions of the maximum force. So a sprinter, sprint swimmer, sprint cyclists, perhaps a triple jumper. Now they've got that sprint run up, and then they've got hop, step, jump. Maximal, maximal, maximal. One after the other. Dynamic strength. And then explosive. We're sort of combining the first one here with our maximum force, but we might not be working against our maximum resistance. But we can use this potential of our muscle to increase the speed, and we need to apply it all despite whatever the object is being lighter than what we could handle. Shot put, for example, discus, hammer. Now, one object, it weighs lighter than our 1 rep max, but we still need to recruit all of that muscle to contract to produce a large force and exert it in such a short amount of time that we produce a very fast movement. Very similar to power, explosive strength. So muscular endurance, I've got a picture here of a Tour de France race, I should say. So the cyclists repeatedly contracting their leg muscles. If they didn't have muscular endurance, it's always a good way to think about it. If the performer didn't have this component of fitness, what would happen to their sport performance? Well, if their legs got tired, they couldn't cycle as quick, they'd fall to the back, they wouldn't win. Quite simple. So there's low resistance, just the pedal. Okay, we're not necessarily sprinting, we're not necessarily climbing a hill all the time. It's a moderate intensity. Can we contract it over and over and over again without performance dropping? Flexibility, gymnastics, very good one for this. But a lot of artistic, a lot of aesthetic sports rely heavily on flexibility because it allows the performer to get into the shapes required for the highest scores, to use lots of their different body parts and keep their balance without falling over. In other sports, let's say football, for example, flexibility can be really beneficial to dodge a tackle. Or in rugby, if you do get hit with a bit of a high impact, are the sides of your body flexible enough so that you can bend or flex with that tackle and the muscles aren't overstretched and strained? Aerobic endurance, and this ability of utilizing oxygen around our body. Think about that VO2 max, the volume of oxygen, or the maximum volume of oxygen that we can take in, transport and utilize around our body. If we can keep that up, if we can keep the supply of O2 and nutrients up and the CO2 removal, then we can continue to exercise. That picture there, it's a triathlon. Now, most triathlons last over 40-45 minutes up to an hour and beyond. Now, there's some ultra triathlons as well out there. That's our aerobic window. We're definitely going to be relying on aerobic energy, so we need to have those systems in place, the enzymes, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system that needs to be of a high enough quality so that we can supply the muscles with enough O2 and nutrients so they can perform at high intensities for long periods of time. Body composition. Now, I haven't put a sporting picture in here. I've just used Christian Bale in 3 of his films where he's taken on the role of the 3 body compositions, or the somatotyping. We've got mesomorph on the left there, we've got endomorph in the middle, and ectomorph at the end. Now, the irritating thing about somatotyping is people think it's fixed. But as you can see, a person can fluctuate. They can fluctuate between how much, not bone, but muscle and fat they have. They can alter that ratio, their composition. And they can decide how much of one or the other they want, depending on their sport. So take the one on the left there. Not a lot of fat, quite a lot of muscle. So this will suit people who they need to be moving quickly. They need to be generating strength or force. They need to be generating power. Think about a lot of games players here. In the middle, obviously going to be heavier. That mass is going to be difficult to move, both for him and for others. So perhaps we're now thinking of sports where impact and contact is important and weighing more can benefit you. Perhaps a forward in rugby, an extra bit of fat composition could be beneficial rather than not having it. And then over onto the right hand side, ectomorph, not a lot of muscle, not a lot of fat. So probably not going to be designed for strength, speed, power, agility perhaps, weight, contact, but they're going to be very efficient at moving their very light and small body. Endurance events, aerobic endurance, muscular endurance, they don't weigh much, therefore the amount of resistance that their muscles do have to work with is going to be very low. So they're going to be able to keep on going, running and cycling and swimming for a long period of time before they get fatigued. So body composition, this ratio of fat, bone, muscle. How can we fluctuate fat and muscle to benefit our sport? Speed, so the time taken to cover a distance. Now, yes, this is a person moving, but we could also focus in on their shoulder. We could focus in on their arm, limb speed. Doesn't matter if it's their whole person or a part of their body. As long as there's a point A and a point B, and we can measure the distance and the time it takes from get to start to finish, we can assess their speed. For a cricketer, they want a fast run up and a fast arm swing. Why? So that they can bowl the ball at a high speed. Why? So then there's less time for the batter to create an effective shot. Therefore, we're more likely to get them out. They're less likely to get points. Always go back to the sport. If this person has this components of fitness, how will it help them meet the demands? How will it help them supersede the demands? Or if they don't have it, how are the demands going to beat them? If you're not fast and you're playing rugby, well, if you get the ball and you're trying to run in a straight line, everyone's going to be able to catch up and tackle you. So think about it both ways. Okay, moving on to our skill-related components. Agility, this ability to change direction quickly, such as evading a tackle in rugby. It could be on the badminton court, moving from the left to the right-hand side to respond to a shot. It could be on a tennis court, a netball court, moving into a brand new position. Not so much with our endurance events, with our runners. They don't have different directions to consider. They have one, which is forwards. Balance. Now I've got two pictures here, static and dynamic. Static is when that centre of mass and base of support aren't changing. It's just a case of keeping them one above the other for as long as we can. Dynamic, however, is when they're moving. So a cyclist, for example, in the velodrome, every time they go up or down, they're pedaling. Their body weight is changing or shifting just slightly, but that slight shift is going to change up where their centre of mass and where the base of support is. So can this person stay sort of intuitively aligned to keep their balance while on the move? Coordination. Now I've got two examples here just using arguably hand-eye coordination, but you could change this for foot golf if you wanted to, or a goalkeeper kicking their ball off, or you could change the one on the right to rounders, or baseball, or cricket. We're looking for the movement and, I was going to say coordination there, but the sequence of bodily movements in the right lines, at the right speeds, at the right times, so it all converges into an accurate event. So this badminton jump smash, they've had to shuffle, they've had to jump, they've had to watch the trajectory of the shuttle, they've had to prepare their arms, they've then had to play the shot. A lot of moving parts to generate this accurate smash. Same thing with the golfer. If she gets 1 millimetre either side on the ball, then that could change 50, 60, 70 metres with a slice or a hook for where the ball eventually ends up. Power, I've used the rugby maul here because let's say you've got 5 metres to go into the try line and you need to push your team or you need to overcome the other team who are trying to block you. What you want to apply as much of your force as close to maximal as you can for as long as you can. You're getting as much of your force out into the environment as quickly as you can for as long as you can. You'll often see, the defending team, and once the players are offside on the maul, they need to come around. They usually take a bit of a run up and then hit the back of their end of the maul to generate that power, to build that force up, to then apply it into the maul and try and overcome the other team and prevent them from scoring. Reaction time. Now we've got Pickford here. I think saving the was it one of the? I think it was the Colombia penalty shootout from the Summer World Cup. When was that? Oh God, 2 years ago now. Sorry, going off topic. Fond memories. But yeah, reaction time. Obviously, he's had to. He's waiting on his feet, on his toes. He's waiting for the stimulus of ball getting kicked at a certain speed in a certain direction with a certain trajectory. He's had to look at that, pick up all of that information, make a decision, and put it into action just for him to make a save. Reaction time, very important in certain situations. Now, him doing a goal kick, that doesn't require reaction time. That ball's on the floor, that's staying there. I'm the one kicking it, no one's going to get in my way. And I can start my run up in the next 10 seconds. No real need for reaction time, so the situation can govern if reaction time is needed. Which sort of brings together all of the definitions and each of the components within a certain sporting context. The last thing that we're going to look at then is sort of trying to hone your own skill in evaluating and justifying the most important components of fitness for any sporting context. And the things you need to be considering is, well, a performer has limited time to train. They can't expect to have all 11, 12, depending on how you consider strength, 11 or 12 components of fitness to be world class. They're going to be up there. They're going to be something probably in the top 5% if they're an elite athlete. But they can't afford all of that time to developing all 11 of those components of fitness. So they need to be able to choose which ones they need to prioritize to best affect their sports performance. So you need to be putting yourself into their shoes. How should I be training? How can I best spend my training to improve the few components of fitness that will most impact my performance and success? And to do that, you need to be thinking about that sporting context. Best way to do it is think about best case scenario, worst case scenario. If I have this component of fitness and I've trained it amazingly well, what's the best case scenario in my environment using this component of fitness? So Pickford just there. In his words, if I had outstanding world-class reaction times, best case scenario, I'm going to give myself enough time to produce a good movement which will stop 50% of the penalties that I ever save. That's pretty good. However, if I neglected reaction time, then I'm never going to be able to produce a movement in time, and I'm going to be relying on luck. I might save 1 in 10 penalties. Okay, that's a pretty bad negative. That worst case scenario is a lot worse than ignoring it altogether. So I need to train on my reaction time. So it's looking at the best case scenario and the worst case scenario and the consequence of having or not having that component of fitness. Then you need to think, well, which ones can I afford to let slip? So he might be thinking, right, let's take aerobic endurance. Right, if I don't go out and I don't smash 10, 15, 20k runs a couple of times a week, and I just rely on my basic 5k runs, what's the worst case scenario? I might only be able to run for 30 minutes before my level of fatigue drops my time. Well, do I ever have to run for 30 minutes as a goalkeeper? No. So that's something I can afford to have happen. I can spend that time instead improving my reactions time so I can stand a better chance of saving penalties. So we just weighed up the pros and cons of having or not having a component of fitness and then makes a decision on which one is more valuable to have. So we're going to take a look at basketball. Now, we're not going to do this for every sport, but I just want to show this to you that you can take any sport and you can link any component of fitness to that sport. There will be a reason for having it, even if it's tiny, like a chess player. Do they need aerobic endurance? Well, they're sitting down all day. But if they don't have some form of aerobic endurance, then eventually they're going to feel fatigued and tired and stressed and anxious because they're starting to sweat. Therefore, that might affect and create distractions, and it might impair their mental form. Just a tiny example. I don't know if that's actually got any validity, but we'll go with it. But most sporting events will have all of the components of fitness, just in a varying level of importance. So with basketball, strength, you never really have to do a one rep max. What have I got? One maximum rep. But you might need explosive strength, which is more linked to power, which we'll get onto. Muscular endurance, well, quarters are, depending on timeouts in the league and wherever you're playing, could be 10 to 12 minutes, could be up to 15 minutes. That's not really endurance territory. So yes, we might be dribbling the ball, but not all the time. Are we going to be running every single second of that quarter? We might be moving, but we're probably going to be going from periods of high intensity to lower intensity. So perhaps muscular endurance isn't the most important for basketball. Flexibility, beyond shoulder range of movement, perhaps knee and hip. We're not going to be producing the splits. We're not going to be needing to go into pike position or backward walkovers. We won't need that in basketball. So we shouldn't really spend too much time beyond your average, your typical, your good level of flexibility training. Aerobic endurance, body composition, speed, agility, balance, coordination, power, reaction time. Obviously, they all play a part. But what I wanted to draw out were the three that I think, when you weigh up the pros and cons, which ones would LeBron here benefit from most? Now, I've put down aerobic endurance because I said literally 10 seconds ago that we might be going from sprint to lower intensity movements up and down the court. Whenever we sprint, we might get lactic acid, we might get carbon dioxide. We feel tired after a sprint. It's our aerobic endurance that can help us recover from that while we carry on walking and jogging for the next phase of play. And if we do stay on for all 4 quarters, we might only have a couple of minutes here and there between quarters in timeouts. So it's important to have a level of endurance where we can, where we don't need to be thinking about getting tired. I can't remember who it was now. I think it was a boxer. Used to train for like 18, 19, 20 rounds instead of, the 10, 11 or 12 that they needed. Because if they were fit enough to last 20, then they'd feel great in the 10th, 11th, 12th round. It's about raising that bar and then working underneath it. Agility in basketball. Well, it's so much multi-directional movement going on. The ability to create a hole, a space that you then have a second to work a shot or a pass or a layup into. So important. It's all about confusing your other person. The quicker you can move in a different direction, the more confusion you can produce, the more time and space you can carve out for yourself. And then power, especially for the shooting guards, those in the key, jumping multiple times. Every time there's a rebound, every time there's a layup, a block, they need to get as high as they can. If they can get higher than their opponent, they stand more chance of catching the ball, retaining possession. And then a potential one, I wasn't too sure on it, that this would be more position. You could have someone who needs to be quick and they're darting, full length of the court. They're doing more intricate runs, whereas your taller players, your shooting guards, they might be able to rely more on, a quick step or a jump, or a little bit of muscular strength to hold off the opponent during a bit of a pick and roll or a guard if they're posting up. So speed might not be essential, but it could help. If you are a quick person and you are needing to cover a lot of space quickly, then speed will be a brilliant asset to have. So that's how you can sort of break down an evaluation. Look at all of the components first and think about, well, how is this used? How does it look in the sport? And then prioritize. What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? So if we do look at three more sort of categories of sport, one on the left, we've got the endurance side of things, where we want aerobic and muscular endurance, definitely. So you have to last the whole length of the event or the race without the fatigue. Body composition, we don't want too much fat to lug around. We want to be lean. We only want a body to be built of things that can move, contract, and contribute to our movements forward. And then balance. If we're on a bike or if we're on uneven terrain, perhaps we don't want to be falling. We don't want to be being uneconomical with our movements, especially on a bike. So yeah, there's four that I would prioritise there. Shooting or target sports, balance, coordination, reaction time, especially for shooting. That quick draw and to a particular point. That coordination becoming really important to be able to see something and produce an accurate movement to intercept the two to produce a positive outcome. And I've put muscular endurance there. This would have been one I put in amber, depending on the event. But you want consistent actions. Well, if we haven't got muscular endurance and fatigue sets in after 5 repetitions of a muscular contraction, well, the 6th and 7th and beyond, they're not going to look like or perform like the first 5. They're not going to be consistent. So suddenly the margin for error starts to increase. I wonder if you looked at a golfer's scorecard, how often the front 9 are better because their muscles aren't fatigued compared to the back 9. A little bit of muscular endurance or a little bit of fatigue is set in and their muscles aren't performing the same as they were in the front 9. Just something to consider. And then lastly, gymnastics or artistic sports where flexibility to create those shapes, to be able to balance on certain points of the body, very important to score those points. Power, to get yourself time in the air, to jump high, to be able to move quickly, to rotate quickly, to again achieve those points and scores. Balance, both static or dynamic. Falling is not good. You lose points. But yeah, especially that dynamic balance, to have that awareness, this is where coordination comes in, to have that awareness of what your body's doing in the environment so that you can adapt your shape to slow your spin, to alter your rotation, to then land, to stick the landing. That's how you score points. Which brings us to the end. Bit of a summary now. So we've looked at 4 things mainly today. Health, so that four components, physical, mental, emotional and social, and how the well-being in all 4 converge into creating someone's overall health. And then we also looked at how physical activity in sport can contribute. Then we looked at fitness, where in grey there is the ability to meet the demands of the environment. Our environments can change, the demands can change, therefore our fitness needs to change. Then what is fitness? Well, we looked at those as well. Physical components, strength, endurance, flexibility, aerobic capabilities, body comp and speed. And then if we were to apply those physical components into more skill related, we have agility, balance, coordination, power and reaction time. And then that last phase of that lesson just then, where hopefully you can see now that most sports, if not all sports, maybe chess aside, all of them will require all components of fitness to some degree. I'm not saying massively, but to some degree there will be a purpose for it, even if it's minuscule. You then need to work out, well, if this performer trains it, what's the best case scenario? If they don't train it, what's the worst case scenario? Then you can weigh up and prioritize which ones have the best case scenarios and which ones have the worst case scenarios that you would just have to try. That's when you can start to evaluate which ones are the most important, which can then help you justify the training selections that performer then makes. How do they go about improving those components of fitness? Well, that is for another lesson. So hopefully, looking at bronze, silver, and gold there, you now know the terms health, fitness, and the 10, 11, or 12, depending on how you view strength, components of fitness. Silver, you should be able to link them to a sport. And then gold, if you started with a sport, could you work backwards and now evaluate and justify which are the most important for that performer to focus on? And that brings us to the end. So thank you very much for joining us in the live lesson today. I hope you found it. I do hope you found it useful. Obviously, we're done for the week. That's now Friday, so I hope you have had a good week if you are watching us at the moment. But yeah, we'll be back on Monday with our next GCSE group class. Off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly what that is, but I will send out the relevant email with the whole week and the following week's timetable and schedule all loaded up. So yeah, that will be Monday at 1 o'clock British summertime. And yeah, I hope to see you then. Any questions, anything like that, then you can always email me at the.pe.tutor@outlook.com, or you can just head over to the website, thepetutor.com, to find out more about the portal and everything else that we have going on. So thanks for joining. If you did join us live, if you're watching this on a replay, amazing. Yeah, feel free to share the message and subscribe to the channel. See you later.